This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Work can be a little weird. Cringy training seminars, coworkers who won't stop talking about their plant, forgetting the mute button at an inopportune moment. We have to deal with a lot on any given workday. Sometimes it can feel hard to thrive and move forward in your career. Well, that's where LinkedIn comes in. LinkedIn helps you get ideas and insights from experts in your field, connect with people professionally, grow your network, and access tools designed to help you find the right fit for your next role. Whether you're just getting started, figuring out your next move, or looking to accelerate your career, LinkedIn is built to support you at every stage because LinkedIn is the network that works for you. Visit linkedin.com/knowstuff to learn more. Stuff at Sea is a 5-night adults-only sailing trip that brings the Stuff podcast universe to life on board. This voyage is a culture-soaked escape where pink sand paradise meets curious minds. Sailing round trip from New York City to Bermuda on October 2nd to 7th, 2026, this voyage drops you straight into the iHeart Podcast Stuff universe. On top of the adults-only experience you already love, you'll get live podcast episode recordings, behind-the-scenes sessions, themed activations, and more unmissable onboard moments. Learn more at virginvoyages.com/stuff.
Welcome to Stuff You Should Know, a production of iHeartRadio.
Hey, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Josh, and there's Chuck and Jerry's here too. And that makes this a timely topical, not timely as in fork tines. I meant to say timely topical episode of Stuff You Should Know. That's a great forecast of how it's going to go too, I think.
Forkcast.
Oh, God.
Is this really us, or is it AI generated Josh and Chuck?
Until this year, I would have been like, don't be preposterous. Now I'm like, just give it some time.
You know how we would know is if one of us said, of course it's the real us. We met in the office and bonded over our Van Halen denim vests.
Yeah, we'd be like, sucker, you just fell for the oldest trap in the book, the Sicilian switcheroo.
Yeah, a.k.a. fake Wikipedia entry stuff.
Is that still up?
I haven't been to our Wikipedia page in years, so I don't know.
Well, regardless, we're not talking about Wikipedia, although it does kind of fall into the...
Sure, it figures in.
The rubric of this. Not sure if I used that word correctly, but it felt right. We're talking today about what are in the biz known as large language models, but more colloquially known by basically their public-facing names, things like ChatGPT or Bard or Bing AI. But essentially what they all are algorithms, artificially intelligent algorithms that are trained on text, tons and tons and tons of text, written English language stuff that are so good at recognizing patterns in those things that they can actually simulate a conversation with you, the person on the other side of the computer, asking them questions.
Yeah, this is it's going to be fun doing this episode over every 6 months.
Right.
Until we're replaced.
Totally. So I think we should say, though, like, this is such a huge, wide topic that is just, we're in the ignition phase, like the fuse just caught, right?
Yeah.
That we're going to really try to keep it narrow, just strictly to large language models and the immediate effect they're planning on having, or they're going to have. Hopefully they're not planning on anything yet. But I really would like to do one on how to keep AI friendly and keeping it from running away. So
Yeah.
I say we just kind of avoid that whole kind of stuff. And really, I'm talking to myself right now, at least for this episode. Okay.
Yeah. We're going to kind of explain how these things work and what the initial applications look like and kind of where we are right now. And then what it could mean for like jobs and the economy and stuff like that. But you're right. It is a whole ball of wax, as you well know. And this is a great time to plug The End of the World with Josh Clark, which is still out there. You can still listen to it.
The truth is out there in the form of The End of the World with Josh Clark.
Yeah, that's a great 10-part series that you did. And AI is among those existential risks, existential, that you covered.
Yeah, it's episode 4, I believe. And Chuck, like, just from having done that research and forming my own opinions over the years about this,
Yeah.
like, it's staggering to me that we've just entered, like,
Yeah.
what's going to be the most revolutionary transitional phase in the entire history of humanity, you can argue. Everything else took place over very long periods of time. We started playing with stone tools, and then we started building cities. All this stuff took place over thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years. We just entered a period where stuff's going to start happening within weeks pretty soon. As of 2023, the whole thing just started.
Yeah, and none of this was around like this when you did The End of the World, and that was, what, like 5 years ago-ish?
Yeah, it was 2018. All this was being worked on, but we hadn't hit that point. Like, all this was pretty much predicted and projected, and it was clear that this was the direction people were going.
And it's here, baby.
Yeah, it is. It's nuts, but it's actually here. So what we're talking about are large language models, which is a type of neural network that are easiest to think of in terms of like a human brain, where you have neurons that are connected to other neurons, but they're not connected to some other neurons. And all of those neural connections are activated by inputs that put out something like your conscious experience, or you say a sentence or something like that. It's very similar in its most basic nature, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Livia helped us out with this, and she did a great job, I think. And Google themselves basically say, you know what, it's sort of like how when you go to search for something on our search engine tool. Mm-hmm. Is there a weirder way I could have said that?
I don't think so.
Our handy search bar. Then, basically what we're doing is auto-completing an analysis of like probability, like what you're typing. If you type in, John Coltrane, or start to type in John Cole, mm-hmm. it might finish it out as John Coltrane, A Love Supreme, or John Coltrane Jazz. And they're saying, what is happening now with these LLMs is it's the same thing. It's just it's got way more data, way more calculations in the algorithm. Mm-hmm. So it's not just completing like a word or two. It's potentially, hey, rewrite the Bible or whatever you tell it to do.
Yeah. And the big difference is in the amount of info the neural network is capable of taking into consideration.
Yeah.
So may I for a minute?
Oh, please.
So imagine with one of those autocomplete suggestion tools like they have on Google search. Mm-hmm. If there's 500,000 words in the English language, that means that you have 500,000 words that a person could possibly put in. Mm-hmm. That's the input into the neural network. Mm-hmm. And then there's 500,000 possible words that network could put out. So you have 500,000 connections to 500,000 other connections. So it's like, I think 250 billion connections you're starting with right there. That's just the autocomplete suggestion, because it based on those connections and studying words in the English language and phrases in the English language, it places emphasis more on some connections than others. So John Coltrane is what's his album? I can't remember.
A Love Supreme is
A Love Supreme.
Classic album.
So John Coltrane is much more closely related to A Love Supreme in the mind of a neural network than John Coltrane Charlie Brown disco is, right?
Yeah,
just to
sure.
take something off the top of my head. And so based on that analysis and that weight that it gives to some things other than others, it suggests those words. What the large language models that like ChatGPT that we're seeing today, they do the same thing. They have all those same connections. But the analysis they do, the weight that they put on the connections is so much more
advanced.
Yes, and exponential, that it's actually not just capable of suggesting the next word, it's capable of holding a conversation with you. That's how much it understands how the English language works.
Yeah, like if you said, write a story about wintertime, and it got to the word snowy, mm-hmm. it would go through, and this is like instantaneously it's doing these calculations.
Right.
It might say like, hillside or winter or snowy day. Like these are all things that make sense, mm-hmm. because I've learned that makes sense. I being, the chatbot or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it probably won't be snowy chicken wing. because that doesn't seem to fit the algorithm. And it learns all this stuff by reading the internet. And, put a pin in that, because that's pretty thorny for a whole lot of reasons, but not the least of which is the fact that some companies, and again, we'll get to it, are starting to say, like, wait a minute, like, we created this content and now you're just scrubbing it and then using it and charging people to use it, and we're not getting a piece of it. So that's just one tiny little thorn. But in order to do this, like you said, it's like it needs to know more. And you came up with a great example, like the word lemon. In a very basic way, it might understand that a lemon is roundish and sour and yellow. But if it needs to get smart enough to really write as if it were a human, it needs to know that it can make lemonade, and that it grows on a tree in these agricultural zones, and that it's a citrus fruit, because it has to be able to group lemon together with like things. And those groups are either like, hey, it's super similar to this, like maybe other citrus fruits, or it's, sort of similar to this, but not as similar as citrus fruits, like desserts. And then you get to chicken wings, although actually that's not true, because lemon chicken wings.
You could have lemon pepper chicken wings, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that
yeah.
doesn't count. But the instance you used was like Greenland, which I guess doesn't grow lemons.
No, but I mean, I'm sure they import lemons, so there's some connection there. But based on how connected, how often these words show up together in the billions and billions of lines of text that these large language models are trained on, it starts to get more and more dimensions and making more and more connections, right? So as that happens, words start to cluster together, like lemon and pie and icebox all kind of cluster together. And by taking words and understanding how they connect to other words, you can take the English language, just the words of the English language, and make meaning out of it. That's all we do. And large language models are capable of doing the same thing. But it's really, really important for you to understand that the large language model doesn't understand what it's doing. It doesn't have any meaning to the word lemon whatsoever. All of these dimensions that it weights to decide whether what word it should use next, they're called embeddings.
Yeah.
They're just numerical representations.
Yeah.
So the higher the number, the likelier it is it goes with the word that the user just put in, or that the large language model just used. The lower the number, the further away it is in the cluster, right? It doesn't understand what it's saying to you. And as we'll see later, that accounts for a phenomenon that we're going to have to overcome for them to get smarter, which is called hallucinations. But that's a really critically important thing to remember.
Yeah, another critically important thing to remember is, and you probably get this from what we said so far if you already know about a little bit about it, but there's no programmer that's teaching these things and typing in inputs and then saying, here's how you learn things. Like it's doing this on its own, and it's learning things on its own. And what we're talking about eventually, like where it could get super scary, is when it gets to what's called emergent abilities, where it's so powerful and there's so much data that the nuance that's missing now will be there.
Right, exactly. So, that's when things are going to get even harder to understand, to remind yourself that you're talking to a machine,
Yeah, and the other thing too, though, even though I said humans aren't inputting this data, one of the big things that is allowing this stuff to get smarter is human feedback. It's called RLHF, which is reinforcement learning on human feedback. So at the end of your whatever you've told it to create, you can go back in and say, well, you got this wrong and this wrong. This is what that really is. And it says, thank you. I have now just gotten smarter.
Right, exactly. So one of the reasons why these things are suddenly just so smart and can say, thank you, I've just gotten so much smarter, is because of a paper that Google engineers published openly in 2017, describing what's now like the essential ingredient for a large language model, or probably any neural network from now on. It's called a transformer. And rather than analyzing each bit of text, let's say you say, one of the very famous things, Marvin Minsky was one of the founders of the field of AI. and his son Henry prompted ChatGPT to describe what losing a sock in the dryer is like in the style of the Declaration of Independence, right?
Right. Yeah.
So depending on how Henry Minsky typed that in, before transformers, the neural network would analyze each word and do it one increment at a time. Maybe not even words, sometimes strings of just letters together, phonemes even. If you can believe it, phonemes even. What the transformer does is it changes that. It allows it to analyze everything all at once. So it's so much faster, not just in putting out a coherent answer to your question or request, but in also training itself on that text. So you just feed it the internet and it starts analyzing it and self-correcting. It trains itself. It learns on its own. And that, unfortunately, also makes AI, including large language models, what are known as black boxes.
Yeah.
We don't know how they're doing what they're doing. We have a good idea how to make them do the things we want, but the in-between stuff, we cannot 100% say what they're doing, how they come up with these conclusions, which also explains hallucinations and them not really making sense to us.
Yeah. And, the T in GPT stands for transformer. It's generative pre-trained transformer. Right. And the reason they call it GPT for short is because if they called it generative pre-trained transformer, everybody would be scared out of their mind.
Yeah, we'd just start running around to nowhere in particular.
Yeah. Should we take a break?
I say we do. I think that we kind of explained that fairly well.
Yeah, a fairly robust beginning, my friend.
We've all had the experience of calling a business and just wanting to talk to a real person, not an automated voice pretending to be human, an actual person who can listen and understand and offer help.
That's exactly what you can do with Ruby. Ruby is the virtual receptionist company that takes care of your callers when you're unavailable in the middle of something or simply don't want to pick up.
That's right. They can answer, screen, transfer calls. They can take messages, collect payments, book appointments, and more, all while making the people you serve feel special.
And best of all, it can help you be more productive. For example, 9 out of 10 lawyers who use Ruby log more billable hours per day than the national average.
And other professionals like plumbers and technicians win more customers while being able to stay focused on the job. But whatever kind of small business you run, Ruby is built to save you time, earn you more customers or clients, and make meaningful connections with the people you serve.
It's available 24/7, 365 days a year, and 100% based in the U.S. See why more than 15,000 small businesses use Ruby. Visit ruby.com, or better yet, call them at 844-900-RUBY.
The springtime thaw is finally here. Flowers are blooming, days are longer. We're saying yes to more plans and finally getting outside, running, walking, just moving again. It's the perfect time to upgrade your everyday go-tos with Bombas. Take Bombas sport socks. They're super comfortable and designed with sport-specific tech for running, cycling, yoga, hiking, you name it. I use them to run in, and I can tell you they work beautifully. So head over to bombas.com and use code SYSK for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com, code SYSK at checkout.
So you're considering getting a home security system, but you want something that fits your space. Well, with ADT Blue, it's easy to customize a system that's right for you and set it up yourself. Just pick the kit and monitoring plan that makes sense for your home.
Yeah, well, let's say you're worried about package theft right off your front porch. The ADT Plus app can walk you through setting up a new doorbell camera kit. Once it's installed, ADT Pros can help you keep tabs on it 24/7, or you can manage it yourself from the ADT Plus app.
That's right. There are no long-term contracts, so you can change your monitoring plan whenever you want. The flexibility doesn't end there either. You can add to your system as you need with things like extra cameras or motion sensors.
Some life decisions are hard, but thanks to ADT Blue, you can get DIY trusted ADT home security in a snap. Head to ADT.com/BLU to build your system today. And to find out more about home protection, check out a new episode of Grown Up Stuff with security expert Joe Mazza, out now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right. So OpenAI launched their ChatGPT very recently in November of 2022. And just in that brief window, what was like 6 or 8 months ago, things are kind of flying high, and all kinds of companies are launching their own stuff. Some of it is, well, first of all, OpenAI is now at Chat GPT-4.
Yes.
And I'm sure, more will be coming in quick succession. But companies are launching, and we're going to talk about all of them, kind of like broad stuff like GPT, and really specific stuff like, well, hey, I'm in the banking business. Can we just design something for banking or just something for real estate? So they're also getting specific on a smaller level,
right?
In addition to these large like Google and Microsoft and Bing and all that stuff.
Yeah, and to get specific, all you have to do is take an existing GPT, large language model, and add some software that helps guide it a little more. And there you go. Or just train it on specific stuff like medical notes. That's another one too. One of the other things that's changed very quickly between November of 2022 and March of 2023, when I think GPT-4 became available. Just think about that. That's such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now, you can take a picture and feed it into a large language model, and it will describe the picture. It will look at the picture essentially and describe what's going on. There's a demonstration from one of the guys from OpenAI who doodles like on a little like scrapbook piece of paper some ideas for a website. He takes a picture of that paper that he's written on, feeds it into ChatGPT-4, and it builds a website for him in a couple minutes that functions the way he was thinking of on the doodle scratch pad.
I wonder if the only way to slow this stuff down is to literally slow down the internet again. Go back to like the old days when a picture would load like 3 lines at a time.
Right.
And you'd say, describe a picture. It'll be like someone's hair, someone's nose,
right.
Someone's chin.
Don't forget
like
the forehead in between.
Yeah. An hour later, you have a complete picture.
Right. I don't think there's any way to slow this down because we're in, not to be alarmist, but we're in a second worst case scenario for introducing AI to the world, which is rather than state actors doing this, which would be really bad, we have private companies doing it, which is just slightly less bad. But they're competing in an arms race to get the best, brightest, smartest AI out there as fast as they can. And they're not taking into account like all of the downsides to it. They're just throwing it out there as much as they can. Because one of the ways that these things get smarter is by interacting with the public. They get better and better at what they do from getting feedback just from people using them.
Yeah, even if it's for just some goofy, fun thing you're doing, it's learning from that. And you talked about the advancements made between the launch of 3.5 and GPT-4. And 3.5 scored in the 10th percentile when it took the uniform bar exam. And 4 has already scored in the 90th percentile. And they found that ChatGPT-4 is really, it's great at taking tests and it's scoring really well on tests, particularly, standardized tests. I think it basically aced all of the AP tests that you would take to get into AP classes, except, that's true. It took a couple of AP classes.
I'm totally kidding.
But the max score is 5, and I think it got 5s kind of on everything except for math. It got a 4, and math, it's weird. It's kind of weirdly counterintuitive because it's a numbers-based thing, but it has more trouble with math, like rudimentary math, than it does with like constructing a paragraph on, Shakespeare or something, or as Shakespeare. Does better with like math word problems and more advanced math than it does just at basic math, apparently.
Or like describing how a formula functions using, writing. The thing is, though, and this is another great example of how fast this is moving, they've already figured out that all you have to do is do what's called prompting, where you basically take the answer that the incorrect answer that the large language model gives you, and then basically re-explain it by breaking it down into different parts. and it learns as you're doing that. And then all of a sudden it gets better at math. So they've figured out tools, extra software you can lay over a GPT that basically teach it to do math or prompt it in the correct way so that you get the answer you're looking for that's based on math.
Yeah, I mean, every time I read something that said, well, right now it's not so great at this, I just assumed that meant, and we'll have that worked out in the next few weeks.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because as these things get like bigger and smarter and the data sets that they're trained on get wider, they're just going to get better and better at this because they learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, just like humans, right?
Exactly like humans.
So you mentioned these hallucinations kind of briefly, and this is one of the big problems with them so far that, again, I'm sure they will figure this out in due time. But one example that Livia found was to prompt it with what mammal lays the largest eggs. And one of the problems is when it gives hallucinations or wrong answers, it's not saying like, well, I'm not so sure about this. It's saying this is true just like anything else I'm spitting out.
Right.
With a lot of confidence. So the answer there was the mammal that lays the largest eggs is the elephant. And elephants' eggs are so small that they are often invisible to the naked eye, so they're not commonly known to lay eggs at all. However, in terms of sheer size, an elephant's eggs are the largest of any mammal.
Which makes sense in a really weird way if you think about it.
Sure, those little invisible eggs.
Yeah, because mammals don't lay eggs, obviously. But the way that it put it was, if you didn't know that mammals don't lay eggs or you didn't know anything about elephants, you'd be like, oh, that's interesting, and take that as a fact because it's saying this confidently. And I saw written somewhere that one GPT actually argued with the user and told them they were wrong when they told the GPT that it was wrong. Which is not a behavior you want at all. But that's what's termed as a hallucination. And a hallucination is a good way to understand it that I saw is that this GPT, this large language model, doesn't have any idea what it's saying means. It's just picked up, it's noticed patterns that we've not noticed before. And it's putting them together in nonsensical ways, but they're still sensible. If you read them, it's just factually they're not sensible because it doesn't have any fact checking necessarily. It just knows what it's finding kind of correlates with other things. So there's some sensible stuff in there, like the phrase invisible to the naked eye or laying eggs or elephants and mammals. Like this stuff all makes sense. It's not like these are just strings of letters.
Yeah, sure.
It's just putting them together in ways that are not true. They're factually incorrect. And that's a hallucination. It's not like the computer is thinking that this is true. It doesn't understand things like truth and falsehood. It just creates, and some of the time it gets it really, really wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't know what an elephant is.
No, it just knows that it correlates to, in some really small way that we've never noticed before, the word eggs.
Yeah, and this is that's a problem if it's just like, oh, well, this thing isn't quite where it needs to be yet because it thinks elephants lay eggs. But there have already been plenty of real world examples where people are using this and it's screwing things up for their business or for commerce or something.
Or their client.
Yeah, or their client. Well, that's one. There was an attorney who was representing a passenger who was suing an airline and used ChatBT to do research, and it came up with a bunch of fake cases that this attorney didn't bother to fact check, I guess. And there were like a dozen fake cases that this attorney submitted in his brief.
And it wasn't like, so like from what I understand, like the brief was largely compiled from what the GPT spit out. So like, it wasn't like the GPT just made up the names of cases. It made up the names of cases and then described the background of the case and how they related to the case at hand, right? So it just completely made these up out of the blue. And yeah, that lawyer had no idea. He said in a brief later that he had no idea that this thing was capable of being incorrect. So it was like one of the first times he used it, and he threw himself on the mercy of the court. And I'm not quite sure exactly what happened. I think they're still figuring out what to do about it.
Maybe just go spend some quality time with your little chat bot.
Exactly. Similarly, Meta had a large language model that basically got laughed off of the internet because it was very science focused, and it would make up things that just didn't exist, like mathematical formula. Like there was one that called the the Lennon-Ono correlation or something like that. Completely made up this thing that I read and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I had no idea. I have never heard this stuff before, and I would have just thought that it was real had I not realized or known ahead of time that it was a hallucination, that this math thing does not exist anywhere. And it even attributed it to a live mathematician, said that this was the guy who discovered it. So like it really can get hard to discern what's true and what's not, which again is a really big problem if we haven't gotten that across yet.
Did they say that mathematician's name was Math B Calculus?
Yeah.
Another example, and this is, we're going to talk a little bit about, replacing jobs and the various ways that can and already is happening. But CNET, for instance, said, oh, you know what, let me try this thing out and see if we can get it to write an actual story. And so they got an AI tool to write one on what is compound interest. And it was there was a lot of stuff wrong in it. There was some plagiarism, directly lifted. So there's, these things aren't foolproof yet. And it's definitely not something that should be utilized for like a public facing website that's supposed to have like really solid vetted articles about, especially CNET, about tech.
Right.
Of all things.
That's something that the National Eating Disorder Association found out the hard way. They apparently replaced entirely its human staffed hotline with a chatbot. And supposedly they were accused of doing this to bust the union that had formed there. And so when they released the chatbot into the world and it started offering advice to people suffering from eating disorders, it gave standard, weight loss advice, which you probably get from your doctor who didn't realize you had an eating disorder. But in the context of an eating disorder, it was all like trigger, 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 one right after the other.
Right.
Like it was telling these people with eating disorders to like weigh yourself every week and try to cut out 500 to 1,000 calories a day and you'll lose some weight. And just stuff that would set everybody off. And very quickly they took it offline and I guess brought their humans back, hopefully at double the pay.
Yeah, but I mean, this stuff that's already being solved as well, because they point out that GPT-4 has already scored 40% higher than 3.5, again, just a handful of months ago, on these accuracy tests. So that is even getting better. And, where I guess people want it to get to is to the point where it doesn't need human supervision to spit out really, really accurate stuff.
Exactly. That's pretty much where they're hoping to get it. And I mean, it's just, they have the model, they have everything they need. It just has to be tinkered with now.
Should we take another break?
I think so.
All right, we'll take another break and then we'll get into sort of the economics of it and whether or not your job may be at risk right after this.
We've all had the experience of calling a business and just wanting to talk to a real person, not an automated voice pretending to be human, an actual person who can listen and understand and offer help.
That's exactly what you can do with Ruby. Ruby is the virtual receptionist company that takes care of your callers when you're unavailable in the middle of something or simply don't want to pick up.
That's right. They can answer, screen, transfer calls. They can take messages, collect payments, book appointments, and more, all while making the people you serve feel special.
And best of all, it can help you be more productive. For example, 9 out of 10 lawyers who use Ruby log more billable hours per day than the national average.
And other professionals like plumbers and technicians win more customers while being able to stay focused on the job. But whatever kind of small business you run, Ruby is built to save you time, earn you more customers or clients, and make meaningful connections with the people you serve.
It's available 24/7, 365 days a year, and 100% based in the U.S. See why more than 15,000 small businesses use Ruby. Visit ruby.com, or better yet, call them at 844-900-RUBY. Hey, everybody, here's a fact for you. In the United States, there is a break-in every 26 seconds, and that means that somewhere right now, an intruder is getting closer. And the problem with most security systems is that they only alert you after the break-in has started, and that's too late.
Well, that's what makes SimpliSafe different. They use alerts. SimpliSafe's US-based live agents, they identify threats on your property and help deter them before they actually break in. So the intruder never gets into your house. The crime is stopped before it even starts.
That's right. And another great thing about SimpliSafe is they have no long-term contracts. They give you peace of mind and great value with their monitoring deterrence plans because they just start at about $1 a day.
Yeah, SimpliSafe sent us a setup years back, and I still use mine every day.
Yeah, and apparently setup, you can do it by yourself in under 30 minutes. So it's a really good value and it doesn't take long.
So if you want to experience the SimpliSafe peace of mind, you can take advantage of the SimpliSafe discount offered to Stuff You Should Know listeners. Right now, you can get 50% off your new system by visiting simplisafe.com/stuff. That's half off at simplisafe.com/stuff. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
Work can be a little weird. One minute you're in a meeting that could have been an email. The next you're trying to decode corporate jargon that somehow means nothing. And don't even get us started on the quick sync that turns into a 45-minute deep dive.
Yeah, well, the truth is figuring out your career isn't always straightforward. Whether you're trying to grow, pivot, or just stay relevant, it can feel like you're navigating it all on your own. Well, that's where LinkedIn comes in.
That's right. LinkedIn can help you grow your career, helping you confidently navigate your path with insights, ideas, and inspiration from your professional community. You can stay up to date with the latest trends in your field, connect with people who get it, and discover opportunities tailored to your goals, your experience, and what actually matters to you.
Whether you're looking for something new or just trying to grow where you are, LinkedIn gives you the tools and connections to move forward with confidence. Because LinkedIn is the network that works for you. Visit linkedin.com/knowstuff to learn more. So one of the astounding things about this that it really caught everybody off guard is that these large language models, the jobs they're coming after are white-collar knowledge jobs.
Yeah.
They're so good at things like writing. They're good at researching. They're good at analyzing photos now. And that's a huge sea change from what it's been like traditionally, right? Whenever we've automated things, it's usually replaced manual labor. Now it's the manual labor that's safe in this generation of automation. It's the white-collar knowledge jobs that are at risk. And not just white-collar jobs, but artists who have nothing to do with white collar or jobs, they're at risk as well.
Yeah. I'm sure the farmers are all sitting around going, how's that going for you?
Yeah. How's that taste?
Art is when DALLE came out, that was an art tool where a lot of people I know would input, I guess. I never did it. I never do anything like that. Not because I'm afraid or anything, but I just not interested, basically. Mm-hmm. But I guess you would submit like a photograph of yourself, and then it would say, well, here's you as a superhero, or here's you as a Renaissance painting or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, it's sourcing images from real artists throughout history, from Getty Images and places like that. And there are already artists that are suing for infringement. Getty Images is suing for infringement and saying, you can't, even if you're mixing up things and it's not like a Rembrandt, let's say, you're using all of the artists from that era and mashing it up together in a way that, we think basically is illegal.
Yeah, they say doesn't count as transformative use, which is typically protected under the law.
Right.
This is instead just some sort of mashup that a machine is doing. To me, it's almost splitting hairs, but I also very much get where they're coming from.
Sure.
Not just a place of panic, but like they're a real, like they have a basis in fact that these things are not transforming because they don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah, and companies are taking notice very quickly. There are some companies, and I'm sure everyone's going to kind of fall in line, that are already saying, well, no, you got to start paying us for access to this stuff. We paid human beings to create this content, for lack of a better word, and put it online for people to access. But you can't come in here now and access it with a bot and use it and charge for it without giving us a little juice.
Right.
And there are a lot of companies that are already saying, like, you can't use this. If you're an employee of our company, you can't use chatbots at all because some of our company secrets might end up being spilled somehow.
Yeah.
Or, our databases are all of a sudden exposed. So companies are really moving fast to try and protect their IP, I guess.
Well, yeah. And some of the companies that are behind the GPTs that are out right now, or the large language models that are out right now, are well known for not only not protecting their users' information, but for rating it for its own use. Like, for example, Meta is one of the ones with they have their large language model is called Llama, and there's a chatbot called Alpaca. And it makes total sense that you are probably signing away your right to protect your information when you use those things on whatever computer you're using it on or whatever network you're using it on. I don't understand exactly. I haven't seen anything that says this is how they're doing it, or even that they are definitely doing this. I think it's just that the powers that be know, like, they would totally do this if they can, and they probably are. So we should just keep our employees away from it, as much as we can.
Yeah, it's like we said, it's being used on smaller levels by one of the uses that Livia dug up was, like, let's say a real estate agent, instead of taking time to write up listings, has a chatbot do it, and then they can go through afterward and make adjustments to it as needed.
But in exchange, that database now knows exactly what you think of that one ugly bathroom.
That's right. Or doctors may be using it to compile lists of possible diseases or conditions that someone might have based on symptoms.
Yeah.
These all sound like uses that are like, hey, this sounds like it could be a good thing in some ways, and it can be in some ways, but it's the Wild West right now. So it's not like there's anyone saying, well, you can't use it for that. You can only use it for this. You know what I'm saying?
Plus, also, everything that we've come up with as just internet users in the general public has been what we could come up with given 3 months with no warning that we should start thinking about this. It's just like, hey, this is here. What are you going to do with it? And people are just finding new things to do with it every day. And yeah, some of them are benign, like having it draft a blog post for your business. I thought they were already doing that based on some of the emails that I get from, like, businesses, right?
Yeah.
But they definitely are now if they weren't before. And that's totally cool because it's just taking some of the weight off of the humans that are already doing this work, right? What's going to be problematic is when it comes for the full job or enough of the job that the company can transfer whatever's left of that person's job to other people and make them just work a little harder while they're supported by the AI.
Yeah. Here are some stats that were pretty shocking to me. I didn't know it was moving this fast, but there's a networking app called Fishbowl. And in 2023, just earlier this year, they found that 40% of what they call working professionals are already using some kind of either chat GPT or some kind of AI tool while they work, whether it's generating idea lists or brainstorming lists or actually writing stuff or maybe looking at code. And this is the troubling part. 40 of those 40%, almost 70% are doing that in secret and hadn't told their bosses that they were doing that.
Right. Those are just working professionals. We haven't even started talking about students yet.
Yeah. I mean, you combine that with work from home and you got a real racket going on.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah, no, totally. Again, though, I mean, like, if you can use it to do good work and you can now do more work, I think you should be paid for more work. Like, if your productivity's gone through the roof, great. You figured it out. I've got no problem with that. It's the opposite that I have the problem with.
Well, let's skip students for a second then and talk about that since you brought it up, because here's the thing. This is the United States doesn't have a great track record of ignoring the bottom line in favor of just keeping hardworking humans at their jobs.
Right.
So I think it was Goldman Sachs said that they found that there could actually be an increase in the annual GDP by about 7% over 10 years because productivity increases. And I guess the idea is that productivity is increasing because let's say you've got 20 to 30% of stuff being done by AI.
Mm-hmm.
That opens up 20 to 30% of your time for your employees to maybe innovate or, do other capitalistic things. But to me, and this is just my opinion, and again, we're really early in all this, but it's a bottom line world and especially a bottom line country that we live in. And I imagine what it will likely mean is bye-bye jobs
Right.
more than it means, well, hey, you've got more time and why don't you innovate at your job? Because for most jobs, it'll probably be like, oh, wait a minute. If we can teach it to do 40% of your job, I bet we could train it to do 100%.
Yeah. Or we can get rid of a bunch of you and just keep some of you to do the other 60%.
But now, see, these people are out of jobs. It's going to bite them in the rear, though, because it's not ultimately going to be, well, who knows? It doesn't seem like it could be good for the overall economy if all of a sudden all these people are out of jobs, because people being out of jobs that means the economy is going to tank. They're not spending.
Yeah.
And it's not like a situation where, the tractor replaced the plow, and then the robot tractor replaced the tractor. But hey, now we've got these better jobs where you're designing and building these robot tractors and they're higher paying and they're great. It's not like that because, the farmer was replaced who drove that tractor
Right.
and isn't skilled in the practice of designing robot tractors.
Right.
And in this case, in most cases, they're not being, there's not some other job waiting for someone who got fired in the world of designing AI.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. But yeah, and in this case, one of the big differences is instead of the farmer having to go figure out how to work a computer, the people working computers now have to go figure out how to be farmers in
Right.
order to sustain themselves, right?
There you go.
But you're right. We don't have a track record of taking care of people very well, at least, who are out of a job. And I mean, without getting on a soapbox here, what's either going to come out of this? Because there's going to be one or the other. The status quo as it is now or as it was as of up to 2022, we don't know that that's going to be around anymore. Instead, we'll either do something like create universal basic income for people to be like, hey, your industry literally does not exist anymore. And it just happened overnight, basically. We're just going to make sure that everybody's at least minimally taken care of while we're figuring out what comes next. Or it's going to be like, good luck, chump. You're fired. You're out on your own. Instead, we're going to take all this extra wealth, this extra $2 trillion that's going to be generated and push it upward toward the wealthy instead. And everybody else is just the divide between wealthy and not wealthy is just going to exponentially grow. One of those two things is going to happen because I don't see how there's just going to be a regular middle ground like there is now where it's kind of shaky in how we're taking care of people because there's just going to be so many layoffs and fairly skilled workers being laid off too. We've just never encountered that before.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that these the largest corporations might want to think about is all it's going to take is one CEO of a huge corporation to say, wait a minute, I think I can get rid of 75% of the VPs in my company.
Right.
And like who except the person at the very, very top of that food chain is protected? And the answer is nobody.
No. Essentially,
at the end of the day, because they make a lot of money. It's one thing to lay off a bunch of technical writers that are all sitting in their cubicles, but if you start laying off those VPs who get those big bonuses, that's more bonus money. And are we looking at a situation where a corporation is run by one human?
I mean, it's entirely possible. Like you could make a really good case that what it is going to wipe out is the middle management,
Right.
like VPs, just exactly like you said. And that we still will need some humans to do some stuff.
Like the board, take care of the board, right?
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, who knows? We have no idea at this point. Ultimately, it could very easily provide for a much better, healthier society, at least financially speaking. It could do that, especially given a long enough period of time.
I'm a cynic when it comes to that kind of trust, though.
I am as well, for sure. But if you look back in history at the history of technology, overall, especially if you just turn a blind eye to human suffering for a second and you just look at the progress of society, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it has just gotten better and better thanks to technology. There's also a lot of downsides to it. Nothing's black and white. No, it's just not. That's just not how things are. So there's, of course, going to be problems. There's going to be suffering. There's going to be people left behind. There's going to be people that fall through the cracks. It's just inevitable. We just don't know how many people, for how long, and what will happen to those people on the other side of this transition.
Yeah. I was talking with somebody the other day about the writers' strike in Hollywood. The WGA is striking right now. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, it's kind of all over the place. But one of the things that they have argued for in this round of negotiations is, hey, you can't replace us with AI. And the studios all came back and said, well, how about this? We'll assess that on a year-to-year basis. And that's frightening if you're either a writer in Hollywood or you're somebody who loves TV and films and quality TV and films.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I think ideation and initial scripts, maybe even right now, could I could see that happening where they're like, all right, now we'll bring in a human to refine this thing at a much lower wage. That's probably what they're most afraid of, rather than being wholesale replaced. Because, like you said, these programs are they're all about just data and numbers. They're not they don't have human feelings, and that's what art is. And so, I think I would be more concerned if I was writing pamphlets for Verizon or something, or if I was
some pamphlet writer for Verizon just went gulp.
No, I'm so sorry. But like BuzzFeed back in the day, instead of having a dozen writers writing clickbait articles, why not have just one human that is a prompt engineer that's managing a virtual AI clickbait room that's just pumping out these articles that, they were paying someone down at $40,000 a year to write previously?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Like, that was a horrible job to have not too many years ago. So it's great to have a computer do it, but that means that we need these other people to go on to be to have writing jobs that are more satisfying to them than that. But that's not necessarily the case, because as these things get smarter and better, they're just going to be relied upon more. We're not going to go back. There's no going back now. It just happened. Like, it just happened basically as of March 2023. And one of the big problems that people have already projected running into is if computers replace human, say, writers, basically entirely, eventually all the stuff that humans have written on the internet is going to become dated. It's going to stop. Yeah. And it will have been replaced and picked up on by generative pre-trained transformers, right? Mm-hmm. And eventually all the writing on the internet after a certain date will have been written by computers, but will be being scraped by computers when humans go ask the computer a question. Yeah. The computer then goes and references something written by a computer. So humans will be completely taken out of the equation in that respect. We'll be getting all of our information, at least non-historical information, from non-humans. And that could be a really big problem, not just in the fact that we're losing jobs, or in the fact that computers are now telling us all of our information, but also that there's some part of what humans put into things that will be lost, that I think we're going to demand. I saw somebody put it like, I think, I can't remember who it was, but they said, people will go seek out human written stuff. There will always be audiences for human written stuff. Yeah, maybe, like you said, we'll rely on computers to write the Verizon pamphlets, but we're not going to rely on computers to write great works of literature or to create great works of art.
Yeah.
Like, we're just not going to. They'll still do that. They're going to be writing books and movies and all that, but there will always be a taste in a market for human created stuff, this guy said. And I think he's right.
Yeah. And Justine Bateman, I don't know if you saw that. I don't know if it was a blog post or if
Are you having a hallucination right now? Did you mean Justine Bateman?
Yeah. Yeah, Justine Bateman, the Jason Bateman's sister, the actor, and she's done all kinds of things since then. I know she has a computer science degree, so she's very smart and knows a lot about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she basically said, and this is beyond just the chatbot stuff, but she was like, right now there are major Hollywood stars being scanned, and there may be a brand new Tom Cruise movie in 60 years, long after he's dead, starring Tom Cruise. He may be making movies for the next 200 years. And like, is this what you want, actors? Do you want to be scanned and have them use your image like this in perpetuity for, there will be money involved. It's not like they can just say, okay, we can just do whatever we want. But what if they're like, here's $1 billion, Tom Cruise, just for the use of your image in perpetuity, because we'll be able to duplicate that so realistically that people won't know. Human voices, same thing. That's already happening.
What?
Yeah, it is. So that stuff is kind of scary. And, when you read, I didn't really know this was kind of already happening in companies, but Livia found this stuff. IBM CEO Arvind Krishna said just last month in May that he believed 30% of back office jobs could be replaced over 5 years. And it was pausing hiring for close to 8,000 positions because they might be able to use AI instead. And then Dropbox talked about the AI era when they announced a round of layoffs. So it is happening right now in real time.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, there's proof positive right there. Like, that guy couldn't even wait a couple months, a year. Like, this really started up in March, and he's saying this in May. Already in May, they're like, wait, stop hiring. We're going to eventually replace these guys with AI so soon that we're going to stop hiring those positions for now until the AI is competent enough to take over.
I mean, how many people does IBM employ? What's 30% of that?
I don't know. I would say at least 100.
At least 100 people, right?
So, yeah, like you said, it's happening already. And then one other thing to look out for, too, that's, I believe, is already at least theoretically possible. Since AI can write code now, they'll be able to create new large language models themselves. So the computers will be able to create new AI.
Well, that's the singularity, right?
No, the singularity is when one of them understands what it is and becomes sentient.
That's right. Sentient.
Yes, that's the singularity.
But this leads to that, though, doesn't it?
It does. It's hypothetically, yes, but we just understand what's going on so little that you just can't say either way, really. You definitely can't say that it won't happen. It's just fantasy. And you also can't say, yes, it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah. And here's the thing, man. I'm not a paranoid technophobe.
Mm-hmm. You don't have an aluminum foil cap on?
No, by any measure. I'm a pretty positive thinker. And this is pretty scary to me.
I'm just going to leave that there. Agreed, Chuck.
Okay.
If you want to know more about large language models, everybody, just start looking around Earth. And when you see people running from explosions, go toward it and ask what's going on.
You almost said type it into a search engine, right?
Yeah, steer clear of those. Yeah, there's so much more we could have talked about, but this is, if you ask me, this is round one. I think we definitely need to do at least one or so more on this, okay?
Yeah, and then one day, like I said, AI, Josh, and Chuck will just wrap it all up and spank it on the bottom and say, no problems here.
Hopefully they'll give us $1 billion rather than like a month free of Blue Apron instead.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk, you know.
Well, since Chuck said we can talk, real confidential-like, that means it's time for listener mail.
I'm going to call this Conception. Not Inception, but Conception.
Oh, I saw this one. I don't know how I feel about this.
Hey, guys. Last year, my wife and I were attempting to get pregnant. A couple of months in, we made plans to stay with some friends in another town for a weekend, and when the weekend arrived, it happened to coincide with my wife's ovulation cycle. As shy people, we both felt a little bit awkward about, hugging and kissing in a friend's guest room, but we really didn't want to miss that chance and that time of the month. So we went about getting in the mood as quietly as possible, and my wife suggested we play a podcast from my phone so that, if any noise is made outside the room, it would sound like we were just doing a little pre-bedtime listening. I knew I needed something with nice, simple production values, so we wouldn't get distracted, of course, by the whiz-bang sounds and whatnot. And since you were my intro to the world of podcast, I've always had a steady supply of yours downloaded. I picked the least interesting sounding one in the feed at the time.
What was it?
How coal works.
Oh, okay. I thought that one turned out to be surprisingly interesting.
Yeah.
I could see how we would have thought that, though.
Yeah, for sure. We put that on and we did our business. 6 weeks later, we got a positive pregnancy test.
Wow.
And now, over a year later, we've welcomed our son into the world.
His name is Cole.
And of course, we named him Cole. That is what this person said.
Wait a minute. They really did name him Cole?
No, he said it as a joke.
Oh.
But great minds, right?
Sure,
Good joke.
yeah.
For both of you. It's almost like you're both chatbots. And this person said, you're fine to read this, but give me a fake name. And so I just want to say thanks to Gene for writing in about this.
Gene is in gene transfer?
Sure.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Gene. We appreciate that, I think. Again, I'm still figuring that one out. And if you want to be like Gene, I'm making air quotes here, you can send us an email to wrap it up, spank it on the bottom. Only humans can do that.
I wonder if when you said spank it on the bottom, if that created any issues.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe playfully. How about that?
Sure.
And send it off to stuffpodcast@iheartradio.com.
Stuff You Should Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
Mom, can I have Lingo Kids? Dad, Lingo Kids, please!
When did we become the Lingo Kids house?
No idea. Last week it was dinosaurs. This week it's...
Lingo Kids!
Why Lingo Kids?
Because it's the best thing ever. We can play games with astronauts, wild animals, and superheroes.
With more than 4,000 interactive games, songs, and shows, Lingo Kids is the #1 entertainment platform for young kids.
So, no dinosaurs?
And dinosaurs! Lingo Kids!
Everything kids love. Download it for free.
You could be adored by everyone and still completely ignored by your cat. Trust me, I know. But if you feed your cat Sheba, you can go from being ignored to truly adored in 12 days, guaranteed, or your money back. Sheba has a full menu of products, appetizers, entrees, treats, even a kitten's menu. It's so cute. So Sheba has a product for even the pickiest eater. Like Sheba Puree, it's made with bone broth. They are chef-inspired flavors. It's got a smooth and creamy texture that cats love and contains no corn, wheat, soy, or artificial flavors. It's food that your cat's gonna love. To learn more, check out Sheba.com. That's SHEBA.com.
Stuff at Sea is a 5-night, adults-only sailing trip that brings the Stuff Podcast universe to life on board. This voyage is a culture-soaked escape where pink sand paradise meets curious minds. Sailing round trip from New York City to Bermuda on October 2nd to 7th, 2026, this voyage drops you straight into the iHeart Podcast Stuff universe. On top of the adults-only experience you already love, you'll get live podcast episode recordings, behind-the-scenes sessions, themed activations, and more unmissable onboard moments. Learn more at virginvoyages.com/stuff.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.